the African American Heritage Corridor, which is a very, very, very viable and historic place in the city of Buffalo, where the Freedom Trail runs, the Underground Railroad, you know, and enhancing a place like that and really maximizing the historical context, value of a place like that can make it one of the, I believe, greatest attractions in this country. I really believe that, you know. This is where the Freedom Trail is, you know, and it's just like, wow, this is it, you know. So my recommendation was it's not about just rehabbing a building. It's how does this building fit within a context of the history of this place, you know, again, creating a place. So that was one. The other is the Fruit Belt neighborhood, creating a strategic plan. And when I say strategic plan, I'm not talking about a series of recommendations or suggestions as to what they should do, but creating actual policies. And this came out of a request for the council president in order to, you know, fulfill a mandate that he had, so that development could be guided in the Fruit Belt neighborhood. So this is that plan. And a lot of what I've done, I've learned in Florida. A lot of policy development, policy that guides development, that ensures that development is equitable. This is not something to say, hey, listen, let's, you know, put something here, put something here. No, it's, you know, if and when a developer would come with a proposal to build something, here are the policies and the guidelines that regulates that process. So that kind of thing, which is another, you know, tremendous historic area. And there are some focuses on the east side. I know what we are doing is putting together a kind of a cluster development, you know, type of approach that we're looking at. It's still in its early stages, but anyways, I've been assigned to it, so, you know, we're looking at doing some things there. Some of the poverty initiatives that we have, you know, been assigned to some of those. So, you know, there are a series of things that are kind of clumped together that involve those three areas.
Okay. Yeah. And in terms of these three projects, you know, I am familiar with a fair amount of them,
Sure.
but you know, overarching goals. I mean, obviously, development is very important, but in terms of the relationship between development and the community, you know, what is the goal there?
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about, you know, the Fruit Belt, that's a medical campus, you know, that has a huge impact on a community that statistically is not at the same level as the medical campus. So, you know, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about the community there.
So I'll talk about the overarching goal in the context of I'll talk about all three in the context of the overarching goal. There are three things that the Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency, what we do, and I believe it's kind of, you know, in these three things, is to engage the residents, educate the residents, and empower the residents. Those three things are paramount when it comes to development. Anytime there is a project or development, you have to have a balance. You have to have the experts at the table, because they're the ones that knows the logistics that need to go into a project, whether it be small or large scale. You have to have leadership, and leadership can be anywhere from a pastor to, you know, a community activist, an executive director of a community center, someone who has that respect and voice of the community. And then you need the layperson. You need the person to come to the table that says, hey, listen, you know, I would like to see X, Y, and Z. You need those people, but you need a balance of each. If you have, you know, too much of the lay vision and or voice, it will be imbalanced. You know, you'll have a lot of wants without the details as to how to make it happen. So there has to be a balance. You can have too much expertise. You can have too much leadership. You know, there has to be a balance with that stuff. So those three things kind of encompass what we do.
Okay, cool. All right, so I mean, maybe we can just wrap up with a little reflection on your time at UB.
Yeah.
You know, this is obviously for UB, and a lot of what I'm sure you're doing today in some respects came from education.
Yeah.
But in terms of your experience there, you know, how did you, I mean, did the school in any way help you connect with the community, or was that something that was already instilled in you before, you know?
That was instilled in me before
Okay.
I went to UB. I think the question that I would propose to the university, which my time at UB was great. Let me answer that. You know, both undergrad and grad, it was great. I met a lot of friends, and I think there was a group of us. You know, even go back to my college days. There was a group of us that from undergrad to grad school, we stayed together, and we were all planners.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about maybe 8 or 9 of us, maybe 10 of us, and we all keep in touch. We have reunions. So just to say, you know, the relationships that I've established, and they're family for life. Just great people. But the question that I would pose to UB, I did an interview a long time ago, and I said, you know, how has this prepared you for, you know, life after UB and things of that sort? And I think a better question is, what is the relationship between the employment and the industry and what we're learning in class? Because, you know, when I thought about that question when I was in Florida, I said, I've never experienced this ever before. You go to a class and, you know, you learn your GIS, which is a phenomenal skill. You learn it, keep it, you know, you learn all of the technical stuff. I think that's good. You learn a lot of theory. Mm-hmm. You know, the history and the theory, I think, is very good. But I think when you come into the profession, there are some things that you're exposed to that you just don't get exposed to in class. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say there's nothing wrong with it, but I think that the relationship needs to be examined. Mm-hmm. What's out in the planning industry? I'm not talking about looking at, you know, the articles on APA. I'm not talking about looking at articles on plant medicine, you know, but I'm really talking about, you know, this, you know, what you're doing. Really looking at what does the job require? You know, what jobs are out there? What did it require? And looking at a job description along next to a syllabus, and, you know, is there any continuity there? Mm-hmm. And I think the more you begin to look at things like that, and the more you begin to shape, you know, the curriculum a little bit, I think that, you know, the school would be in a much better place. Now, I'm pretty sure there's been some other things that has evolved that is, mm-hmm. you know, is wonderful. I think UB came out with a real estate development major course, mm-hmm. top notch. I think that's phenomenal. I think that's great, because that's the direction a lot of it is going. When I first took my job, the first thing I was given was a vested rights certificate. My job in Orlando. They say, hey, this guy, he owns 9 acres. He has a you know, residential, commercial. It's a mixed use. It's a planned development, and he wants to get vested rights for his commercial. Can you work with him? He's an attorney. He needs a vested rights. I've never heard vested rights ever in my life as a UB grad or undergrad student. What in the world is a vested rights? Mm-hmm. You know, for commercial. Okay, I do know commercial is a use. It's a zoning use and a land use. You know. But you know, you can't learn everything in school. There has to be, you know, you have to learn things as you go. So I do think that there is a way we can balance between, you know, theory and practice, but I think the practice mm-hmm. would be a little more. But on that note, the things that I did get a chance to do hands-on, the colloquium classes were awesome. They were really awesome. I know we, at the time, we did a design for Hilbert College that was looking for, you know, a dormitory, mm-hmm. you know, facility. I was a HUD fellow student, So I really got a chance to be out in the community and, doing things. I think when Dr. Taylor did a plan for the fruit belt, we were a part of that. We're part of the Maston District Plan. So there were things that we were able to do hands-on, which were very good. Those were some very good courses and some things. But I think to be at the cutting edge, doing research across the country to find out what are some of the consistencies with the profession, both public and private sector, and what are some of the technical requirements for both public and private sector. I really began to shape some courses after that. So.
Yeah, I like that. And actually, kind of a follow-up question to that. You spoke about this at the high school level and now even at the university level, just this idea of being with people that are like-minded, equally motivated. Kind of on a more general perspective, what does it do for a college student? I mean, I've told students before and probably didn't really think too hard what I was trying to say, but college is a make or break experience. You make it or you can break it.
Yeah.
But what is having that nice core of friends who are like-minded, equally driven, really motivated to do something good for your community? Like, how does that shape your experience?
There's a book by John Maxwell, I think it's called The Level 5 Leader, and he quotes a professor, and this professor said, you're the average of the 5 people that you associate yourself with the most. You're the average of that. What the conversation is about, places you go, things you do, you're the average of that. And when you look at the circles, that you associate yourself with, there are several things that you have to take in consideration. I think the first thing that I was exposed to was diversity. Not only a diversity in ethnicity, but a diversity in thought. You had people that would challenge you to get better with things. So what that did for us, that core group, we were able to share, and I was able to, be a part of it. And I want to be careful because it wasn't a clique. It was just a group of us that we had the same classes at the same time. We ate at the same time. And it was literally, we'd be in the lunchroom and say, hey man, did you finish some stuff with the class? And all of a sudden, we wouldn't even sit with each other because we really didn't know each other until we started seeing each other in all of our classes. And we started sitting and eating lunch together. And then we started talking about the professors together. Don't put that on. No, I'm joking. We started talking about professors, and then we started talking about, all of these other things. And then we just created this bond, and we kind of made the commitment that, hey, listen, we're gonna make it through this. There were times that were difficult. I lost my grandmother when, in my first year in grad school. That was very, very, very difficult. And these were the guys that gave me a card and said, listen, I understand it's tough. I understand that this is something that you don't want to go through, but you still got to make it. So even if I got to drag you, let's go. And that was very encouraging and inspiring and motivating. And likewise, you had issues and catastrophes in other families, and we were always just kind of there. Having a support, having a friendship, having a bond, and having someone who has the same goal and motivation as you is very, very vitally important when going through college. The one thing I wouldn't encourage is to go at it alone. Neither one of us stayed on campus. We were all commutes. So that, if I would just, come to school, go to my class, maybe eat a little something, and go home. And that was kind of like my life. And then these guys were here. And then when we all started grad school, we'd be in the Center for Urban Studies, room 140. And that's kind of where we, stay late, order a pizza, and type up the thesis, and things of that sort. So So that bond is very important. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with that. I mean, it was actually Nate said something very similar, you know, just about the connections that he made when he was there, and you know, you're gonna always be in this power dynamic between your professors and your colleagues, and as much as they tell us that we're all colleagues, I mean, there's always gonna be that power dynamic. So like, you definitely need to have that support network to first off figure out what's going on in class, because sometimes you know
you don't know
exactly, and you know. You're all vying for everyone's approval, but at the same time, you know, like grad school, for example, can be very, like, depressing. It can be very challenging. I mean, there are days that you're probably asking yourself, why on earth am I doing this? But to be able to have, like, that network to know that, like, when you graduate, you can go out to the community, you're spread out all over the place, but hey, you want to do this project in this one neighborhood, and you know somebody who's in there, it's like, well, you already have that bond, so you can, you know, reach out to those networks.
That's what it was. And when people saw me, you know, I would go to our Weed and Seed meetings. Weed and Seed was the greatest thing at the time because I was in the community, I was engaged. I go to Weed and Seed meetings. Hey, listen, you know, there's Art. He's a student at the University of Buffalo, and he's going to graduate, and he's going to help make better communities, because they saw me grow up. You know, they saw me ride my bike, you know, when I was a kid, and now here I am, you know, getting my degree. And I had every bit of passion in me to help this city grow, you know. And I just went away for a little bit, but I'm back.
Are you happy to be back?
I'm very happy to be back. This is great.
We're happy to have you back.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else you just wanted to share? Or,
no, I think this is fun.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, if you want to.
Sure.
Find this button.